Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the West End Imps show. As always, I'm your host, Jake. As you can tell by the voice, we got a result yesterday. Really good day out. I'm joined by Chris. As always, Chris, mate, how are you
Morning.
feeling? I know you feel a little bit ill, but in fact, we probably both sound ill. But how are you feeling?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I had a bit of a rough night. Got a very sore throat, and I feel like I've got a bit of a coldy thing coming on. But yeah, still basking in the glory of yesterday's result.
Yeah, it's sort of one of those victories that you have in the season that doesn't feel real, doesn't it? It strikes me a lot of the Sheffield Wednesday result last year that in the fact that that should not have happened yesterday.
No, I mean, I think Luca, my lad Luca, is probably the only one that I spoke to and that we spoke to before the game that actually said he felt we'd get something from the game. I think we'd have all come away from that game with a point, thinking that was a fantastic result. You know, Ipswich are flying, aren't they? Unbeaten at home, I believe,
Yeah,
until yesterday, and sort of second in the table. You know, they are going to be, I think, top four, possibly top two, come the end of the season if they can. You know, it's a squad filled with seriously quality players, and I don't remember speaking to anyone who sort of felt that actually we'd get a great deal. And some games I quite enjoy that attitude of, it's just like you're in a win-win situation almost. It's one of those free hits, isn't it? Like Peterborough away to an extent. You know, we don't think we felt we'd get a great deal from the game, and how wrong we were.
we'll come to the lineup. The lineups then obviously Lincoln, Mark Kennedy kept us unchanged from the game against Charlton. I can see why he did it, given the fact that obviously against Charlton we were very defensively resolute. I think we were fantastic. And then, obviously, when you go into a place like Portman Road where there's 28,000 home supporters there, you want to try and not be defensive, but you want to try and be realistic. Because if you go to Portman Road and try and play Ipswich off the park, like we tried to do last year under Appleton, you'll get beat purely because they're that good. Obviously, like I say, we were unchanged. There was no real surprises, was there? The fact that we kept the five at the back, the fact that it was Ben House with Mandroy and Diamond up top. There was no real surprises, was there for you?
No, not at all. You know, like you just said, and I think like Mark Kennedy said after the game, you're not going to go to Ipswich and play football as as a team of a sort of club of our size and where we are. So I think he got it absolutely spot on. You know, that is 3-4-3, isn't it? 5-2-3 kind of formation. No surprises for me in the lineup. So yeah, I just think it was a really well set up and very well drilled team that took to the pitch yesterday. And for all of the statistics, which I'm sure we'll come on to, for all of the chances that Ipswich had, there weren't many glaringly clear-cut chances. There was quite a few speculative efforts. I think there was maybe two that I can recall where we looked at each other and went, "How has that not gone in?" But equally, we had one of our own, you know, with Ben House kind of hitting the post from a corner. So, yeah, lineup wise, and then you're looking at their lineup and you're thinking,
Wow.
we've really got no right to be on the pitch with them, have we? You know, it's a seriously impressive squad, and they're doing some really good things, and they play some very good football on the sort of 28,000. It's funny, isn't it? Because I didn't find it a particularly intimidating home atmosphere. I thought they were quite flat, not very vocal. We was having a great bit of banter with the little crew that were kind of down towards our the away end where we were, in terms of kind of just bantering back and forth with the home fans. But it wasn't a particularly intimidating home atmosphere, and I think that was probably quite helpful for us. It didn't feel like a cauldron. You know, some grounds you go to, and it's really, really intense, and the vocal crowd really are that 12th man.
Yeah, I think the issue at Portman Road is the fact that their ultras are miles away from the away end, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. We'll come on to the first half then. Like you said, Ipswich are doing some really good things. Yes, they've spent a lot of money, but they really struggled to carve us open in the first sort of 20, 25. In fact, the first the full first half, I thought Ipswich didn't exactly create too much. Rushworth saved a free kick pretty comfortably. I think he's made one save diving down to his left, but not sure. I've seen the angle of behind the goal. I'm not sure whether it's going to go in or not. Um, and then obviously a lot of Ipswich fans I've seen on social media have said, "Oh, Lincoln were time wasting from the first minute and waited for a set piece." Just to debunk that, if we were waiting for a set piece, that would have to insinuate that we're good at attacking set pieces. We're one of the worst teams in the league for offensive set plays. One of the best for defensive set plays. One of the worst for offensive set plays. But when you come to Ipswich, everything has to, all your ducks have to line up in a row, don't they? And they certainly did for us yesterday. And we scored from a corner, which, do you know, for some reason, when we score from corners, the last corner I can feel that we scored from was Michael O'Connor on the first day of League One against Accrington all those years ago. Really well worked corner routine, wasn't it? And Ben House was there to pod home, and a player that's done really well since coming in and leading the line, Ben House. What's that? 5 goals so far this season in the league. Really impressive.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. Yeah, I just think like we set up our stall, didn't we? We were there to hit them on the break, pick up some, opportunities from set pieces. I think we have improved in our set pieces. Noticeably, the last couple of games we've improved with the long throws, which have been quite a dangerous sort of new addition to our attacking threat, I guess. But we're not going to go and play football in the kind of beautiful game sense of football against a team like Ipswich because we can't compete with the quality of players. If we start opening up spaces for them, we'll get turned over. It's simple, and I think that's the reality, and that's, I think, a really positive thing for us is that we can compete with those kind of clubs, but we can play football, but we need to know when to do that. And I think it was quite obvious that we'd set up to have a very structured and very tough to break down. And they struggled definitely the first sort of 25 minutes. And then it was noticeable that the likes of Harness particularly was sort of picking up pockets of space between the 3 centre defenders and sort of beyond TJ. But they just couldn't seem to get through what ended up being a kind of real solid brick wall display, didn't it, at the back?
Yeah, and then obviously the second half, if I'm honest, I think we sort of started the second half the better. And if you look at it, it's been quite a trend. We normally start halves pretty well. I can remember Bolton, we started pretty well at the start of both halves. I know we certainly have it in a lot of other games as well. We had 2 opportunities in the first sort of 10 minutes of that half, as well as a penalty that maybe should have been given for handball. Ben House hit the post, like you alluded to. Jack Diamond probably should have done better with his effort. That was well saved by Christian Walton. Maybe it's all that recall stuff that he's been seeing in the media that might have messed with his head a little bit. But the one I did want to talk about was the penalty. Danny Mandroy, who's in the box. I think it's Luke Wolfenden. He's practically playing jazz hands with his hands up like that, and it's very obvious that his hand is not in a natural position, and they've not given it. What were your thoughts on all of those chances, but the penalty in particular really bugged all of us, didn't it?
Yeah, I think just briefly going back to the first half quickly, the fact that we took the lead gave us that opportunity to really hang on to it, and hang on to it we did brilliantly. But yeah, for me, the handball was 100%. That's a Stonewall penalty. If you look, I was watching I don't often watch Premier League highlights, but I had it on this morning as I was having a bit of a lazy lie in bed. And the Forest Wolves game, for example, the handball shouts in there that resulted in penalty. One didn't, one did. But for me, it was just so blatantly obvious. And how that's not been spotted by either or any of the officials really I just found a bit baffling. I thought House, he did pretty much everything he could do. It was a tight angle. It was kind of floating over to the far post, and he put his head down, and it just unfortunately came off the post, and we couldn't pick up the second. And then, yeah, I just felt like it was quite an uncomfortable final 20 minutes plus the 7 stoppage time when they just were laying siege to our goal. But, I tweeted last night that actually that defensive performance is as exciting to me as when we're free flowing, like we were, say, at Bristol Rovers going forward. That shows two really positive sides to our game, that we can mix it up and that we have that ability to really just completely, it was backs to the wall stuff for that last 20 minutes. And you could sense their frustration was starting to creep in because they just were not able to either create a really clear opportunity or break through or break us down. And they were picking up, they had lots of space, lots of time, kind of 25, 30 yards out from goal. But then when it came into the box, the blocks were flying in. It was just an unbelievably committed performance from 1 to 11 throughout the whole, because at times we didn't have anyone kind of 30 yards away from our goal because everyone was back trying to fill holes and do a really, really outstanding defensive display.
And to be fair to Ipswich, they tried to change it up. They made 4 subs.
You look at who they bring on. I mean,
they
it's
all
ridiculous.
Get in our team, don't they? All 4 of them probably get into our team.
The gulf is there to be seen week in, week out, pretty much. And their squad, the players they can bring on, the ability they have to change shape, structure, systems. We don't have. We have to a sort of smaller degree, but we really, they're a significant level or 2 above, aren't they?
And I'll throw the stats at you then. 32 shots, 5 on target, which we're not an Ipswich Town podcast, but we'd be disappointed if we had 32 shots and only 5 on target. 14 corners, but the one stat that I want to focus on the most, and it sort of ties into man of the match that we're going to describe, 16 block shots. And I think the man that probably got on the end of all 16 of them was Adam Jackson. I also think you've got to give massive credit to Paulie O'Connor, to the entire back line, actually. I think Wes Burns, who's a really good established player at this level, couldn't get past Sean Rowan at all. They had to take him off. That with Caden Jackson. Regan Poole, captain's performance again. We are so lucky to have him at the football club. I can remember one block where it looked like the 29 had run past our entire defence, and Regan, who was playing left centre back, sprinted across the box to stop him. But I guess I'm going to come on to man of the match, Adam Jackson. I think it's unanimous. You told me he was pretty much straight out the ground. I've had a bit of time to think about it. Probably Jacko's best display in an Imp shirt. I think that would be fair to say.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. Yeah, I thought he was outstanding. He led by example, and I think that inspired others around him in the same way that Paul does week in, week out, and we saw it Bristol Rovers really close up when he makes that block, and that block is potentially stopping a goal. The way he celebrates that, I just love to see that. O'Connor, really impressive. TJ, really, the whole back line. But equally, you've got to include in that the likes of Virtue and Sanders, because
Sandwith.
Yes, Keith mockingly calls him. But everyone put in a defensive shift yesterday, from House right back to Rushy in goal. But Jackson just stood a mile above, didn't he? He was just blocking everything, and he was really aggressively going in for challenges. And I think it was kind of one of those games where from the first minute our defenders were letting their strikers know that they were in for it, and that's what happened. And it was an outstanding display.
Yeah, I don't think we're over it, and it's not going to get any easier because next week we've got Sheffield Wednesday at home, so that's going to be awfully fun. Anything to plug this week, Chris, before we take it off? Obviously, a happy anniversary to yourself and your beloved Amanda. Anything else that you'd like to give your wife a shout out?
Well, no, we're happy anniversarying it today. Hopefully I'm going to start to feel a little bit better, but no, we're just going to probably have a chill day today. Thank you. And no, I'm unfortunately not at the Wednesday game next week, but I wouldn't expect it to be very different in terms of that starting 11 and the way we play. And I think that's something we'll probably need to get used to. I think the only thing I was thinking on the way back as we were driving back yesterday was that in in that system with Rowan and TJ, you know, they're very good players, but perhaps, and I don't really want to have anything kind of, it's not even negative, but slightly critical to say, but they're not the most creative, which does then mean we need the likes of Jack Diamond and Mandroyu yesterday, you know, and to really offer that creativity in the final third. But in a game like yesterday, it didn't really matter too much because it was very much about, right, we've got a lead we didn't expect to get, and we're going to hang on to this. So yeah, it was a cracking day. I'm still buzzing from it, to be honest. You know, it was a really fine away day.
Absolutely, and thank you again for joining me on this Sunday morning, Chris, to go through it. Thank you everybody for watching. Please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, as we are trying to reach 1,000 subs here on the channel. Big thank you again to everyone that has shown support and has spoken to us about this this new show that we've got. But yeah, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week. Up the Imps.
Up the Imps.